Thanks for joining the Soarcast, where we talk about drones, manned aircraft, and satellites, and how they relate to geospatial products found on the Soar platform.
Hello, everyone. This is Darren with Soar, and you're joining me again for a Soarcast. And today we have a great guest. His name's Evgeny, and I won't take a stab at his last name, but he goes by Ev. So that's how we'll talk to him throughout this interview. And Evgeny is with Skylum, and they make AirMagic, which is a piece of software for enhancing drone images. So, Ev, how are you today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Just got off the plane. So thanks for catching me at the right time.
Yeah, we're glad that we caught you. Where are you today?
Today I'm in Kiev. But if you talked to me yesterday, I was in Shanghai. And if you talked to me a week ago, I was in Tokyo. A lot of travel.
Wow. Well, we're glad that we caught you. So, today we just want to catch up with you because we've worked a little bit with AirMagic, and we found that it works really great for drone images. Just sort of out of the box, almost it does all the work for you. Can you tell us a little bit about AirMagic? What does AirMagic do for drone images?
For sure. Yeah. Well, like stepping one or a couple of steps back, Skylum makes a lot of photo editing software just because there is 11 years of history of making different apps. And through all of this history, basically the idea is how do you enhance and how do you make image editing easy? And so a year ago, we had introduced, or actually 2 years ago, we introduced an app called Lemur that is super easy to use. You drag and drop images that you want to enhance. And basically, we trained the artificial network, neural network to automatically enhance those images. And then we started asking our customers, like, what do you use it for? You know, what kind of images do you take? And there's a healthy portion of our users that have drones. And drone and photography, of course, are really related because a drone without a camera is kind of boring. And so we thought, how about we make an app that is dedicated to drone photography? And that's how AirMagic was born. It's basically features the similar interface to Lemur, but it's a whole new neural network that's been trained exclusively on the drone images. And as you might imagine, most drone images are taken outdoors, and very few of them are indoors. And usually it's a nature shots or landscape shots or city shots. And so it's been quite an interesting challenge to optimize it for that. But at the same time, the images are more or less kind of like there's it's very diverse, but at the same time, they all kind of happen to be mostly landscape or cityscape images.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. I think that even myself, when I was getting started out, and I should say probably still now, getting a good shot is always a challenge. It seems like you don't know that it's a good shot until you get the image off the drone. Whereas maybe when you're holding a camera in front of your face, you feel good about the composition, and it's maybe easier to frame it. Is I don't know. Would you agree that often it's hit or miss with drone images? It's not until you get it down off the drone that you know whether it's good or not.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit of a practice because I've seen some people who do it naturally. They know exactly what they're going for. For me, it's a bit different. I would normally fly a drone and I would put it on a timer. So maybe like shoot every 3 or 5 seconds. Because at the same time, I don't want to miss the shot. And at the same time, I want to look around and kind of like see what else is there. But normally, it's kind of like, I think it comes down to experience. I feel like people who've done it over and over and over, they just fly, they know exactly what they're looking for, they just like go right for that, and I'm jealous.
I think you definitely have a good point. I think trying to compose your shots or deciding perhaps how they look. I've seen other people make that type of suggestion. Use something like Google Earth to get an idea of how the shot's going to be framed, and if things will center well, or if they do things like obey rule of thirds. But I'm a bit like yourself. I like to go up. And let the drone take a lot of pictures and then make a decision afterwards. I think that's the strength of drones, because they can cover a lot of ground, quicker than you and I can cover ground. They can acquire so many images all at once. So why not get a lot of images and then filter through to find your favorite one. I wanted to switch gears a little bit about the conversation, that's more about maybe some of your rules or even some of your experience for acquiring great photographs. And one would be acquisition. And that's really like when you're taking images with drones. Do you have any suggestions for people starting out as far as getting good images or okay images to start?
That's a good question, because I've been thinking back to my experience of living in Japan, and basically, drone taking drone pictures in Japan is pretty complicated because of regulations. So, luckily for those who live in places where it can just simply be outdoors, outside of the city, and fly drone wherever they want. That's a big advantage. So the main thing is obviously look for the places where that are, you can start with touristy places. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's the touristy outdoors, or touristy like travel destinations. And thinking of Canada or thinking of Australia, for example, those are kind of like, those are hiking trails, those are waterfalls and things like this. So that gives you an idea that if you're shooting waterfall, a drone can definitely help. You can get a very unique perspective. If you're shooting a forest and there is like a lonely road, and you took that road and it looks twisty from the top, it's gonna probably look a lot more intriguing. Or if you're passing by like massive fields and you see that they're like colorful, maybe like green or yellow, from the top they're gonna look cool because they're all like either square or like some different shapes, or so that will give you a whole different perspective. And sometimes I feel, luckily with modern drones, it's very easy to fly them, and it's very easy to get it started, so it doesn't take a lot of time as it used to be in the past. So you can take it up the air whenever you want it to, and just get to see a whole different perspective. And I think that's the best feeling, is that you don't need to take half an hour, you don't need to like prepare all of this. You just put it on the ground, fly it up, see what's up, and if it's boring, well, you bring it back down.
No, that's great. Those are great suggestions, and I think your point is good. Just get out there, and if you think it looks good from the ground, chances are it probably looks good from the air. I wanted to touch base with you on editing photos, and really, I think it stems from a conversation we had a little while ago about enhancing photos so that they're more visually appealing, and even more so that they're appealing to others, which would mean they're more likely to buy them. How big of a difference does it make taking an image and enhancing it afterwards?
Well, the simple rule is that all the images needs to be need some enhancement. And that just stems from the way that the eye and the camera sees things differently. And so you simply, like, if you see with your eyes and it looks pretty, most likely the camera cannot capture the same thing as your eyes see. So of course that's like the basic rule, is that you need some sort of enhancement. The other thing is, you mentioned like how good they are for sale. I think it's important to know sort of like who the client is. And I'll give you an idea. So, for example, if you're shooting for some sort of as just a picture, then your composition is what you want to, how you want to frame it. But if you're thinking of that to be as a part of the advertisement, or as a part of some kind of messaging, then you might need to leave more space on the left or on the right or top or bottom. And a lot of commercial photographers, for example, they would frame it so that they either take a wider approach, or they try to, if it's drone photography, they would fly a little higher, or they would try to frame it so that there's enough space to put a copy on either side, and they would actually make several shots so that designer can put something on the left or on the right side of the image, for example. So that's important to know, like who the actual customer is, whether and if it's for some sort of like satellite style imagery, then of course you need to look like straight down. And oftentimes those are if you're in the same space and your drone is already up in the air, I think it's prudent to just go through the checklist and do all of this at the same time, because it doesn't take take too much effort to actually capture different shots.
Oh, that's great advice, Ev. Things that I wouldn't have thought of, but they make perfect sense. Like what you said about framing the shot, allowing space in the shot to add comments or titles or those types of things that are going to look good on that background, but still keep the observer's attention. I wanted to maybe touch base a little bit about even marketing your own images, and so I forgot to touch base a little bit on your history. So maybe we'll go into that sort of in the middle of the interview. But what is some of the experience you have sort of in this photo space, in the stock imagery space, going back, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah. I get where you're going with that. Yeah. Back in 2004, I started a company called Fire and PX. It's a photo sharing marketplace. Started as a community, and in 2009, it was basically restarted as a business. And in 2013, it started as the photo marketplace, so a photo stock marketplace. And so I've been doing this up until 2016. And in 2018, the company got acquired by a Chinese company, like Getty Images of China, basically. And so that's a lot of years of working and understanding communities and the marketplaces. And so what we've noticed is that better looking images, of course, sell more, or images that have some sort of like a commercial value or commercial ID in mind also sell a lot more. So kind of like once you understand the tools that you have at your disposal, at what you might need in order to sell the image, you might start thinking like a client. And so you might start taking the images that actually are sold more often. And one of the things we discussed before this podcast is that keywords also matter. So instead of just putting keywords that you think you might want to put with the image, it's important to put keywords that the client would be looking for, like kind of like getting in the head of your client and starting to understand what their needs are.
No, that's brilliant, Ev. And I saw a tweet yesterday that was one picture is worth 1,000 tags. So that's just a play on the old phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But certainly, you're covering a much bigger audience and just increasing marketability if you have more tags. And thanks for hitting the nail on the head with that question. That's definitely where I was going with that. Well, we've been trucking on with this serious imagery side of things, and this is the second half of the Soarcast with the not so serious second half. And these questions, really they're sort of out of thin air. They're not meant to trick you up, but they're meant to get your first reaction. So be prepared if some of them seem a bit funny. And I'll start off a bit serious. What's your favorite season for taking photos?
I think it's the fall season. And when you ask me that, the picture in my head is the yellow and red leaves in Canada. And that's the thing that I actually have not photographed with the drone. But now that you mentioned this, I think that's like the perfect place and the perfect time to be and to shoot all the foliage that's happening in the fall time.
Well, it sounds like you got to organize a business trip to Canada in the coming months.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
Yeah. What's your favorite coffee?
Latte for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm using latte. I should have said flat white for obvious reasons of where you guys are based. But I use them kind of interchangeably. And yeah, for me, latte is very important. It's basically how I start my day, and that's how I measure the quality of the coffee shops that I travel and see around the world.
Very good. What is your favorite song from either the 1990s or the 2000s?
I have no idea. I'm trying to figure out. Oh my god. Never gonna give you up. That seems to be gaining a lot of traction lately. Uh, yeah, I'll go with that one.
Okay,
It's
I know
gonna be
that song.
embarrassing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll take that.
I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you.
And then it's stuck in everyone's head for the rest of their day.
I think we're gonna when we edit this Soarcast, we'll make that the outro music just for you.
Uh,
Moving on. Do you have a favorite operating system?
I do. I'm a Mac user, and but it's like frankly, it's I can use anything. Linux, Windows, Mac doesn't matter. Just Mac is makes my life a little easier. So I've been a Mac user for quite some time, like maybe 15 years or so, 16 years.
Okay. Next question. Pretend you're flying a drone to your mom. How would you explain it?
To your
Say you're explaining, so you had to explain what it's like to fly a drone, but you're explaining it to your mom.
oh, luckily she knows what a drone is. It's just it's a small airplane with a camera, I guess, that you can control with the radio. Uh, I don't even know. Like I think most people know, even old people, even older generation knows what drones are because they've seen them around in parks or they've seen them around on TV or in pop culture. So I think luckily for you and me, it doesn't need much explaining.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, okay, this one might trip you up. Who is your favorite geopolitical leader, alive or dead? So it could be a world leader who's either alive or dead, and you don't and it doesn't necessarily matter whether you wish they were dead already. And we'll leave that up to the audience. So you can throw any name out there.
Do they have to be drone pilots as well?
No.
Oh, geez. That's a tough one. Frankly, oh, that's a tough one. I've been reading a lot of history books, and I'm trying to figure out, like, I want to go with somebody pretty ancient, but at the same time, uh, I'll answer this way. I'll go with the current Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
That
And he goes through a lot of controversy right now, but I think my favorite part about that is that whether it's him or somebody else, people still wake up in the same country and they don't feel divided because of that, and that's one of the best feelings to be to be Canadian and to be part of that.
Well, thank you, Ev. I think that's I'll go with that. That's a great answer. Okay, we've only got a few more. Which way do you button your shirts? Up or down?
Always up. Who does it from down? That's like it's really hard. No, you first locate the you want to make, because if you start somewhere in the middle, you always mess it up, and it's always like gonna be like one off. So you start from the top, and there's no other way. If anyone ever answers you from the bottom, you should not talk to them. I think it's really weird.
Very good. Okay. Last question. What type of biscuit are you craving right now?
Biscuit. Actually, none, but I would take a nice almond croissant.
Well, very good. I've run out of silly questions, and I didn't seem to trip you up except on the geopolitical leader one, but you came up with a great answer for that. And so everybody who tuned in today, thanks to Evgeny. And I'm going to let Evgeny say his full name as it should sound. Ev, how do we pronounce your full name?
Evgeny Tchebotarev.
Very good. And that's why I didn't try to do it myself. But thank you, Evgeny, and great advice about taking images and making great images using drones. And thanks for joining the Soarcast.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Have a great day. Thanks.
Bye.
And that's all we have time for today. Tune in to our next Soarcast for more discussion on geospatial products and imagery found on Soar.